Okay, and I'm live, but there's nobody here because everything just went crappy. The Osmo Pocket wouldn't work as a live streaming camera. Everything went totally off. And so you're going to have to go back and rewatch this later. Hopefully we get an audience. There we are. Hi, Dick. How you doing? I'm just going to adjust this camera manually because it's glitching the hell out. For some reason, it has a red light on it at the moment. That's going to have to do. Hi, Dick. Thanks for being part of this. Yeah, everything just went west the moment I went live. And that is just how it is. 4 people have come through, so hopefully people will I stuck with you. Thanks for that, Dick. Really appreciate it. Yeah, nightmarish morning. Everything else was going well. I had breakfast, got the cats fed, had the cats taken care of. Everything was going well until I hit live, and then it all went west. So hopefully we'll be fine. We've got a few things on the agenda today because it is the solstice. It's the longest day of the year, which is kind of cool and groovy, and I like that. Everybody, let me know whether you can see me. I know there's 6 people here now, so let me know how you go. That's put me totally off my mojo, so I'm going to have to get it back somehow. But we'll do a weather check. How is your weather there at the moment? It's not great here. It's 10 degrees. It's going to get up to 20, but it's been weird. And I did some research on why our summer is so shitty this year. It's not quite summery enough. Dick says, coming through loud and clear, raining in Dover. Okay, that's cool. Yeah, I found out why. And it's a thing called the Hunga Tonga eruption and tsunami in 2022. There was this enormous undersea volcanic eruption near Tonga in 2022, and it threw a whole bunch of extra water vapor into the atmosphere of the southern hemisphere. And that has been messing up our summers for the last 5 years. So there you go. Evil Pixie can see me 9 degrees and dry in Morecambe. Overcast and 24 degrees Northern River, says Ian. Hooray, I'm on the air. Yes, for sale 100. I am on the air. Nightmares. I'm really going to have to troubleshoot using the Osmo as a live stream thing. Yeah, so happy holidays, happy solstice to everybody. It's going to be the longest day of the year today here, which is a bit awkward because I'm going out to record some Christmas lights tonight. And I'm going to have to go fairly late because it won't be dark enough to really show the Christmas lights off well. There's a place nearby called Piccadilly Court, and there's a very nice lady who does the best Christmas lights in this side of Melbourne. And so we're going to be going and checking those out. I'll be recording them for the other channel. So that's what's happening tonight. In the meantime, I've been out. Hi, Zammy Adams. Yeah, I've been socializing with friends. We have a friend with a very large garden, so we went over to their place and had lunch and caught up with some friends. One of my friends who was there, I've known for 46 years, which is as long as I've really known anybody I'm not related to. In fact, it's longer than I've known anybody alive whom I'm related to. Yeah, Carol would love to see the Christmas lights, says Dick. Yeah, I'm there. I'm up for that. I'll see if I can find a couple of other ones, but the main one I want to do is in Piccadilly Court. But yeah, good friend of mine, Lucy, known her for 46 years, known her since 1979 when we were both very green and callow. And yeah, it was good to catch up with everybody. Had lots of food, got to pat Caesar the chocolate lab, who was wandering around and being an agent of chaos the way Labradors are. So all of that kind of stuff's been happening. So it's hi Captain Laser. So yeah, I've been doing that stuff. Got the big family Christmas thing happening on the 25th, which is going to be kind of groovy because the family's extended. There's been a reuniting of Sal's sister and her family, so we're doing that. And of course, um, Sal's niece, Steph, we had her funeral. She died late last month, and we had her funeral and did all that stuff. So yeah, um, busy times. Hi, Carol. Carol wants to walk around the area and photograph the lights to do something similar. Do it. Just do it. There's no downside to putting it up there. I mean, doing YouTube, you're kind of a hostage to fate in a way. There are always going to be people who might knock you and criticize you, but you've got to punch through that. There are always going to be assholes. There is always going to be dickheads. There are always going to be nasty pasties. But you got something to say, Carol. I know you're passionate about a bunch of things. And if you can do a video where you're passionate about what you're doing, you're going to have a great time with it. But yeah, and then of course, last week we had the Bondi thing, which was monstrous because I'm a Sydney boy. That terrorism attack in Bondi happened in my hometown at a beach I know very well. To be honest with you, Bondi isn't the best beach around. It's very touristy. It's very packed. It's not that good. It's not that interesting a beach. You go one beach south and you're in Tamarama, really narrow beach, great surf. I got pulled out in a rip at Tamarama. Tamarama is a good beach. Coogee is good too, which is the one a bit further down. Coogie's getting a little touristy, but if you want to go to a really good beach in Sydney, if you ever end up being here, you want to go down to Maroubra. Still got the suburban vibe. It's not touristy. It's not full of places trying to sell you hats with Australian flags on them. It's a nice suburban beach, beautiful stretch of beach, great surf, great swimming, great food along there, good cafes, but it's nothing as rammed and touristy as Bondi. Carol says, just getting the time. A lot of places near us put the lights up in November and take them down on Boxing Day. Captain Laser says, gutter when I heard about the attacks. Hugs to Australia. Yeah. Yep. Yep. Doug says, had trouble finding the stream. Love Tamarama. Tamarama, I don't know if it's still that way, but it's probably not. It used to be the place to go if you wanted to see white pointers. And by white pointers, I don't mean sharks. I mean topless ladies sunbathing on the beach. There used to be a lot of them at Tamarama back in the day, which was delightful. It's also good swimming there, so you could go swimming and there would be lovely ladies sunbathing topless. No problem at all with that. Dick says, been lucky so far on my channel. Everyone like yourself has been nice and supportive, but I'm waiting for the not so nice ones to show up, and I'm sure they will. Yeah, inevitably you'll get a couple of people who have got brainworms who are going to attack what you do, particularly if you offer an opinion on anything, and definitely offer an opinion on something. Let your opinions fly, because inevitably somebody will come along and be an asshole. Then you know you're actually doing the right thing. You're expressing your opinions freely and well. And there are some people who are going to disagree with them. Anytime I mention Trump on a channel video, people will crawl out of the woodwork and start criticizing me and talk about Trump derangement syndrome as if fighting fascism was a mental illness. Get a lot of that stuff. Dodge Morgan says, how do the songs go in Australia? I'm dreaming of a really hot Christmas. No, we have a, here you go. Write this down, Dodge Morgan. White Wine in the Sun. Tim Minchin's Australian Christmas song. It's the best one ever. It's fantastic. It's not maudlin. It's not religious. It's a great Christmas song. By the way, like my $2 hat, I got that at the supermarket yesterday when I was buying cat food. But yeah, well, I think it's weird to have Christmas in winter. I think it's bloody stupid. How do you have the barbecues? How do you sit on a lawn chair and drink Aperol spritz when it's snowing 5 foot deep? It's just not right. And barbecues, Christmas barbecues are the best things. Doug says, opinions are like assholes. Everyone has one, and some stink. Yeah, but, I can always filter out people. One of the things I do where people do get abusive, and that does happen, I might get 1 or 2 a month now. YouTube's got a little bit better at blocking those kind of assholes. But what I do is I usually just make the channel invisible to them. They can't interact with it. They can't see the videos. They get nothing. So I'm sucking the oxygen out of them. And I enjoy doing that because if people are going to criticize, there's a difference between arguing. If someone dislikes my opinion and wants to argue the point and make a point contrary to what I'm saying, I'm good to that. Got no problem with that at all. Yes, I'll agree to disagree. But if you just go up and start attacking somebody, that's a very, very different thing. That's something that shows your own glitch. It shows more about the person making the comment than it does about the person who is being commented upon. And I think that's very important. Racist Chambara's here, wishing you all the best for the Christmas season. Damp and wintry in the UK. Don't let them grind you down. They don't. I am really resilient. There are moments when there have been a couple of things that have been said that have really got me down because I was lacking sleep or a little bit unwell or whatever. But I bounced back really well. I've got all the resilience. And I think you need that to do what we do here. But those people are their own worst enemies. They've got to live with those brain worms they've got. They've got to live with the stupid ideas in their heads. They've got to live with opinions that are mean-spirited, all that kind of stuff. That's them. Let it be them. But I withdraw the sustenance they want from the channel. Carol says, can't imagine having a barbecue for Christmas. It's great. It's fantastic. I'm changing hats because this thing's starting to get itchy. Who knew that a $2 Christmas hat would start getting itchy after a while? Let's see. I'll wear one of these ones. Here we go. That one. I've replaced it. Yeah, barbecues at Christmas are great. It's a fantastic time of year for it. Dodge Morgan says, don't laugh. We had a barbecue knee deep in snow one year. Hilarious. One brave chap was cooking over the barbecue. Rest of us watched from the warm house. It's not the same. We barbecued on Saturday at Jamie and Sarah's place, good friends of mine. And we did the barbecue. Then we ate in the dining room. They've got an old house, like a 150-year-old house, a lovely big ceilings dining room. And then after we ate and had the best New York cheesecake that Sarah made, we all went out into the garden where the cast iron furniture is and sat around for 4 or 5 hours just shooting the shit among people who'd known each other for decades and catching up and just doing all of that stuff. It was the best. Just having that comradeship. And also Murray brought some Lafroy. So we had a little tiny bit of scotch. Sal was driving. She doesn't drink. So had a bit of a scotch sampling, which was very, very nice. And just had a fantastic time with friends. Renatus Chambara says, the things that surprise me is many people online lack a sense of decorum and manners. IRL, they're different people. Yes, sometimes they are. Maybe they are. But, yeah, the invisibility thing, I'm fairly public. If I'm commenting on Twitter, and I'm not going to call it X, my handle is my name. And so I'm not hiding behind anything when I make comments on things. Yes, on Blue Sky, it's Terry Talks Movies, and on Facebook, it's me. So I'll express my opinions without hiding behind a pseudonym. But then I don't have to worry about expressing a toxic opinion and then getting sacked from a job because I don't have a job apart from this YouTube channel. By the way, super chats are available. But hiding behind a pseudonym gives people a boldness they wouldn't have in real life. And that is okay in some ways. If you're teenage kid who wants to connect with other people who may be either gender diverse or neurodiverse, hiding under a pseudonym for a while is useful and is protective. But the other side of it is people who use pseudonyms as a way of shooting at people but ducking for cover as well. There we go. Ramsar's here, 67 degrees Fahrenheit in West LA. Cool. Oh, yeah. Was name's here. Angela's here. I hope you and Sally have the best Christmas. Thank you for both your kindness over the last week. Chuck Shamash. Yep. And yeah, our hearts and our sympathy are with you there. And it's been incredibly hard for the Jewish community in Australia. Carol says, I've heard of people cooking their turkey in the barbecue. I have a family in New South Wales. My cousins send me the most Aussie Christmas cards I can find, and we send them the most English. Yeah, that's always cool, doing that exchange. The best thing we do, and my mum started this, 40 years ago maybe. She got sick of doing roast meals because there was that tradition hung over from the English that you do a roast dinner and a roast lunch, and you do the turkey and the ham and all of the side dishes and the crispy roast potatoes and that. And one year Mum went, fuck it. I'm going to cook all the meats the day before, slice it up, and we're having cold meat and salad. And then we're going to have jelly and trifle for dessert. And in Australia, that works really well. It's the best thing. You just graze on the buffet, eat what you like, sit around, talk to people. It's the best way to do it. We're trying to convince Sal's mother, who's doing Christmas this year, to do that. But she wants everything the way it was forever. And so we can't get her to budge and just tell her, don't run around cooking everything on the day. We'll prep stuff the day before. We will help you. But you don't have to do it at the age of 78 or 79, the whole thing on the day, but she won't stop doing it. Thanks, Dick. And same to you and Carol and Roxy. I hope everybody listening and watching me, listening to and watching me, has the best holiday season ever. However you celebrate it, whether you're secular or religious, if you're by yourself, I hope you find someone to share the day with. But if you're with family and stuff, don't put up with their bullshit, but have a good time. Now, Dick says, another work colleague says they're having pizza and others having beef stew. Beef stew in the wintertime really hits. I do a really good potato and leg soup. Potato and leg soup in the wintertime really hits as well. Honouring my Welsh ancestry. Renee Chambara says, what about doing a potluck Christmas dinner? People get too stressed over the break. That's essentially what we did on Saturday with Jamie and Sarah's, because everybody brought food. Sarah sent out an email and said, can you bring a salad? So I did an enormous Greek salad with feta and cucumber and tomato and olives and all that stuff. Everybody brought a bit and made a very diverse meal. Jamie and Sarah cooked all the meats, and Sarah did the fantastic New York cheesecake for the dessert. But it was a contributory thing, and that increases a sense of community in the best possible way. Carol says, Richard's sister has a curry at Christmas. I like turkey, but it's whatever makes you happy. Yeah. Oh, I want a curry now. I feel like having a curry now. Doug says, we have a hybrid Christmas Eve roast dinner regardless of the weather. Christmas Day we graze on cold meats, cheese, etc. Absolutely. We used to do seafood as well, but Sal's mother became allergic to seafood. So we don't do seafood anymore. But I think sometime in the summer season, I want to take Sal down to the market and we'll get some prawns and some oysters and a few other bits and pieces and have a little bit of a feast that way. That would be good because our seafood's fantastic here. And if you get it when it's not exactly on Christmas, it tastes, it's a lot cheaper to do. So I'm just putting away the other guy. Ramsar, thank you very much. Happy holidays, says Ramsar. US $4.99. Got the fart gun ready for you, man. That was a short fart. I'll have to do better. That was a good one. Thanks for supporting the channel, Ramsar. And thanks for all the comments and things like that as well. Renaissance Jambara says, my Christmas dinner is going to be Japanese pork curry and rice. That's good, because I only have myself to please this year. And we'll settle down with a Wong Kar-wai marathon on the Blu-ray player. That makes a lot of sense. Wong Kar-wai and some pork and rice. Gotta like that. What I really want to do is head into the city at some stage, but I'm not going to do it at Christmas time, because there's a couple of good places that do really good casso sando, like pork cutlet sandwiches, Japanese style. So I really want to hit some of that. Carol says, we always have takeaway on Christmas Eve. It's my birthday and always busy that night as I go to a carol service and help out. At least I'm doing something positive. Absolutely. And happy birthday for Christmas Eve, Carol. I will say that to you again on Facebook, but yeah. Doug says, very quiet Christmas. My partner's watching good and bad Christmas films on TV. My daughter arrives and my son, his wife from Germany, and I get to meet my baby granddaughter. Great. That's what it should be. Hanging out with the fam. Captain Laser says, I'm still recovering from the American Thanksgiving, doing the same act for Christmas. Just plates of finger sandwiches, cheese, and fruit plates. And that's why Carol's called Carol, because she was born on Christmas Eve. It's probably a good thing you weren't born on Guy Fawkes Day. But, yeah, so lots of good stuff. Actually got a bit of show and tell, because I did get semi-organized for this. Here's the movies. Dad spelled it wrong on my birth certificate, says Carol. Yeah, well, parents are like that, aren't they? I've got the movies I'm going to be watching over the season. Both Christmas season and that weird liminal space between Christmas and New Year. I used to hate working that time between Christmas and New Year, because I usually worked in the city. And none of the good cafes were open between Christmas and New Year. And you'd have to go really far afield to get a decent toasted sandwich and a decent coffee. So I always hate that time of year. Dick says, cool, love show and tell. And Renee Shambara says, I'm glad Carol is called Carol rather than Guido, thanks to an accident of days. Space Carrie's here. Hi, Carrie, how you doing? Long time no talk. Best wishes to the channel for 2026. Thank you very much. Carol says, could have been worse. It could have been called Christmas Eve. Well, there is that. Though that sounds like a James Bond girl. So that's not bad, having the name Christmas Eve. So anyway, movies I'm going to watch. I am going to watch Kiss Kiss Bang Bang with Val Kilmer and Robert Downey Jr., but I've misplaced my copy of Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, because it's a Christmas movie like a lot of Shane Black action films. So I'm going to watch that because it's fun and it's good. Also going to watch Die Hard on 4K, because I've got a Die Hard on 4K. Last year I saw it in the cinema for the first time, and that was a blast. But I'm definitely going to watch this. Going to watch Alan Rickman fall off the building. Always great. All about family. Hi, Justice. Merry Christmas from Indonesia. Thank you. And Merry Christmas to you. So, yep, Die Hard. This one's HDR as well, so it's going to look bloody crisp. Hi, Patrick. So, doing that because you got to do the traditional Christmas movie. Then I'm going to watch Iron Man 3, which is in this box set of 4Ks of the 3 Iron Man movies. Going to watch Iron Man 3 again, because the villain's an Australian. Guy Pearce is the villain in this. So I'm going to watch Iron Man 3 as well. Carol says, my sister Christine, so we couldn't have two Christmas. My sister is Christine, so we couldn't have two Christmas. My brother picked my name. He wanted Christmas Carol. I talked him into just Carol. Fair enough. George Morgan says, she's had that time between Christmas and New Year. All the bloody sales, seeing the stuff you paid top dollar for, now cheap as hell. And Captain Laser says, Die Hard's Christmas movie. Boomer Doug, $5. Merry Christmas to you and Sally. I'm looking forward to the annual Terry Talks Movies New Year's Eve. Yeah, I'm doing the New Year's Eve live stream. I'm going to get it set up better than I did this one. But we're doing the usual live stream, which will be the 4th year for a New Year's Eve live stream between 11 p.m. and 1 a.m. So we're doing that. And Doug, here's your fart gun. Ramsar says, munching on cubes of opal and Fuji apples with dark roast coffee. I love Fuji apples. They're my second favorite after Granny Smith because Granny Smith aren't too sweet. I like the sharpness of a Granny Smith. But yeah, here I am. Sorry about that, Dealey, but technical issues. Yeah, Fuji apples are just good. I'm trying out a couple of new varieties are starting to come out. I'm just working my way through them, but a lot of them are a little too sweet. I do like that sharpness in it. It was like when Sarah did the New York cheesecake, and she balanced out that tartness really well with the sweetness. I kind of like that blend of sharpness and sweetness in the sweet things I eat. Carol says, been making mince pies. Do I like them? Yeah, I do, Carol. And I saw your mince pies on Facebook. They are fantastic. And Ramsar, I will try opal apples if they start growing them here. It just depends. A lot of our apples come from Harcourt on the way up to Bendigo. And I'm not sure whether they've got them as a cultivar yet. For Sale says, all this talk about apples is making my mouth water, making mine water too. So I'm going to have a drink. So do you want to know which Australian Christmas film I'm going to watch? Because it's a bit of a surprise. It's not what you think. It's not Bush Christmas with Nicole Kidman. Though there was an original Bush Christmas done in the 1950s with Chips Rafferty. But if you want me to, I'll show you the Australian Christmas movie I'm going to be watching this year. Dick says, going to miss the New Year's Eve show due to being at work and the time zone difference. That's okay, Dick. Watch the live stream afterwards. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm cracking a bottle of Prosecco that I've got at a Kris Kringle. So there's going to be alcohol consumed and there's going to be all sorts of fun. Renaissance Chambara says, Babe. Nah, didn't like Babe. As a Christmas movie. Nah, it's not Babe. Anybody else want to know which Christmas movie I'm watching this year? Which is Australian and typically Australian. I'm going to wait. Patrick says, do tell. Here we go. You ready? It's a big fat box set. Wake in Fright is the Christmas movie. Umbrella just put out an announcement saying, don't forget Wake in Fright is a Christmas movie. Yep, and me, Wake in Fright. Going down to Bundinyabba. And this is the big box set with the script and everything in it that Umbrella sent me this year. And Umbrella's doing really well with stuff. And me, yes, right, absolutely. Yep. Wake in Fright's indescribable. It's very dark. It's very dystopian. It's very Australian. You can look it up later, but it's fantastic. Carol will have it on while she's working, as she's working from home. But yeah, I have to catch up with the upload version, says Dick. Yeah, definitely doing it. And Carol is quite welcome to be part of it. Ian says, my girlfriend saw Australian made A Savage Christmas at the movie theatre and enjoyed it. Not sure about that one. I'm not sure I have seen it. But yeah, the box set of Wake in Fright, definitely watching that. Have we got any other Christmas ones here? No, the rest of them are the ones I'm going to watch in that liminal time in between Christmas and New Year. And yeah, at Renaissance Chambara, the packaging that both Imprint and Umbrella do for their collector's editions, fantastic. Never had a problem with any of them. I don't even mind it. Very, very occasionally when they've sent me review copies, there have been those little crimps at the corner of the box. But they're very sturdy boxes, and this one in particular, having the case around it, Works well. See? There's nothing else out here. Waking Fright's great, but a hard watch for me, says Doug. Yeah, it is. It's not an easy film. One of Donald Pleasance's best roles is in Waking Fright, and one of Chips Rafferty's best roles. So I'm going to go on to the movies I intend to watch in the liminal period between Christmas and New Year. Racist Chambara says the BBC is doing season 2 of The Night Manager, which should be internationally on Amazon January 11th onwards. I haven't checked out season 1. We've got it on physical media. Sal got it, but haven't had a chance to watch it yet. So these are the movies I'm going to intend to watch between Christmas and New Year, allowing for weird things. Dick picked up the imprint to this box set of Voyage of the Damned recently. That one's got some really well curated extras in it. I'm not sure if I got that one, but I looked at the extras and I know they're good. So here's what I'm going to watch in the liminal time between Christmas and New Year. Bit late, but Mad Monster Party. I'm going to watch this. This is the Umbrella release, which is so much better than the American one, which hadn't been color graded. I'm going to watch that. Captain Lazy says, I do like dark films this time of year. Wages of Fear and Sorcerer. Have I reviewed Sorcerer? Not yet. I haven't found a good copy of it locally. But, yeah, I really love Wages of Fear. It's got so much grittiness about it. Zoe Adams says, I'm going to watch The Plumber, 1979. It's a Peter Weir joint. Rams asked watch 4 Scrooge movies. Scrooge from 51. Scrooge from 1970. Christmas Carol 84. Scrooge 1988. My favourite is 1984 with George C. Scott. Yeah. I've got a problem with George C. Scott because he bashed women when he was drunk. And that's a kind of trigger for me because of my upbringing. For Sale has Mad Monster Party on VHS. Yeah, this one looks fantastic. It's just so sharp. And I did buy the American one that came out a few years before this. And I got rid of it because I did a compare and contrast for myself. And the color grading on this is so much better. And the source they struck this from is better than the one that the American version had. So I'm really glad about this. Tons of extras too. But I love Mad Monster Party. And what I decided to do between Christmas and New Year's, it's movies I really like and movies I'm just getting my shoes sorted out here. So if I lean back a bit, that's why. So I'm watching that. The other thing I'm watching is another release from Umbrella. Going to watch Eyes Without a Face. This is their collector's edition again. So I'm going to watch that because I haven't watched it in a few years. And I'm in the mood to get a bit of Frangio into me. Racist Chambara says, Sorcerer is very good. Arrow Video do a great print. I watched Fitzgeraldo, Sorcerer, and Wages of Fears as a thematic trio. All a great and around way, and watching them together made me contrast. Cool. Evil Pixies watching The Apartment as a Christmas movie last night. Ghost Story for Christmas on BBC's The Room in the Tower, adapted by Mark Gatiss from E.F. Benson's Tales. Spooky. Cool. Mark Gatiss is such a richness of interesting content we're getting from Mark Gatiss over the last 10 or 15 years. So I'm just adjusting the camera a bit. And I've just adjusted myself out of camera range. This thing is pissing me off enormously. That'll have to do. Eyes Without a Face, what a banger. Yeah, it is. And I did have a previous version of this, but I think this is the 4K? Let me just slip it out. Because I believe it is. Yep, it's the 4K. So I'm going to watch it on 4K. Not that I'm kind of agnostic as far as Blu-ray, DVD, and 4K concerned. But given the fact that Umbrella sent me the 4K, I'm going to watch the 4K. Carol says, watching lots of Scrooges, Muppets, Alistair Simon, musical ones, Disney's Jim Carrey, still several to see. So cool. Hi, Siren858. Carol says, need to find a copy of Scrooge. I love that one. If I see one in an op shop, I'll get it for you, Carol. Yeah, so lots of things. Oh, there's even more that I'm going to watch. For Sale says, I watched Eyes Without a Face on the big screen back in 61 without knowing it had been censored. Later bought the DVD and saw it uncensored. I think uncensored is definitely the way to go. There have been a couple of good releases around the world of Eyes Without a Face, but suddenly Umbrella popping up with a 4K. Great. Always up for that. If anybody's got anything from Umbrella on order, by the way, I should mention this. They got some warehouse problems in getting things distributed, and they put out a notification of that. So just be patient. They're working their way through that stuff at the moment. Oh, hi, Deb. Deb and Nipaluna. The rain stopped in Hobart. We're expecting snow on Christmas Day. That's wrong. That's deeply fucking wrong. But, yeah. I mean, we had thunderstorms all evening yesterday, and pretty heavy ones. No kind of wind, but lots of rain and thunder and stuff yesterday. Now it's gone away, and I can see patches of blue sky. Emmy says, add the holdovers to my Christmas movie watch. Cool. But yeah, so there's more I'm going to watch, or I intend to watch. Let's allow for that. I went to the 4K shelf because I thought, what do I want to watch in my 4Ks? Battle Royale. Kinji Fukusaga's Battle Royale. Very dark. I'm going to watch that between Christmas and New Year because I got the 4K and I haven't run it through yet. Terrific film. Beats the shit out of the Hunger Games, even though the Hunger Games stole from it. But I'm watching Battle Royale. Duggett says, rewatch Santa Claus Conquers the Martians. That's a weird movie. It is. It's fantastically weird. Shot in a warehouse in New Jersey as well. D. says, there's also Blackadder's Christmas Carol, which is a story in reverse as a generous Victorian member of the dynasty learns to be a git, which is kind of like what social media does to rich people, really. Yeah, Renee Schabara. Battle Royale feels very now. Deb says, yeah, we got the tail end of storms, but it's looking sunnier now. Yeah, we got hit pretty heavily with them. And the cats were doing what they always do, which is hide in the hall, because the hall's central to the house. More things I'm going to watch. I'm going to watch one of the saddest movies I know, and the ultimate date film. If you're ever dating somebody for the first time and you want to check for red flags, and I know all of us are usually in relationships, Jacques Demy's The Umbrellas of Cherbourg, with all that fantastic music by Michel Legrand. I always cry at the end of it. Going to watch that again. I just got the 4K because I got a voucher for Amazon. So I got a freebie here. What can I buy with it that's going to be really good? So I upgraded to the 4K, the Criterion edition of The Umbrellas of Cherbourg. And if you do this as a date movie at any time and they don't like it, show them the door. Mystery Man says, my son-in-law introduced me to all the MC universe in order. Just watched Winter Soldier for the first time. I'm having fun. Yeah. I was actually having a chat online with Richard Cabotry, who's a really good writer. And he rewatched Thunderbolts after not really liking it the first time around. And he really liked it this time because it's a Marvel movie that's actually about something. It's about managing mental illness as much as it's a punchy, zoomy action film. And it does that really well. Dave says, watch Muppet Christmas Carol. Going to be my usual Black Christmas and Die Hard. Other than that, I'm not sure. Yeah, I thought I'd get the things out. Renexa Chambara says, love the Umbrellas of Cherbourg. Watched it years ago with BFI. My test date sad film is Grave of the Fireflies. Yep. And Deb says Thunderbolts really resonated for her. Yeah, but Umbrellas of Cherbourg. And then I'm going to watch, probably in the new year, I'm going to watch Young Girls of Rochefort, which is the other musical that Jacques Demy did. And that one's got Gene Kelly in it, in the last good Gene Kelly role in cinema. But a bit of Jacques Demy, gonna love that. Have a great time with it. Let's see what else I've got here. And I mostly went to the collector's editions to try to find things that I wanted to watch. I'm going to do a bit of blaxploitation as well. Coffee with Pam Grier. God, I love that. Fantastic film. Gutsy as hell. Directed by Jack Hill. There we go. There's the inside cover. Yeah, I haven't watched a bit of Pam Grier in a while, so I'm going to watch that. Kick-Ass 1970s blaxploitation. I need some of that in my life at the moment. It's not 4K, but it doesn't matter. And I just love Pam Grier kicking ass and taking names. And there's going to be an unboxing of a Pam Grier upgrade in my next video, because Imprint have sent me a whole bunch of stuff to review. Incredibly large stuff as well. And I'm looking forward to doing that. I'm probably going to record that today or tomorrow and then release it for the Wednesday video, which is going to be the last video before Christmas. That's the one where I'm announcing the winner of the raffle that I'm doing for the channel members and the Patreon people with the 24 movies. I'm going to be drawing and announcing that. Deb says, adored Umbrellas of Cherbourg. I watched it many years ago at the prompting of my late older brother. Great taste in movies, that guy. Chambara says, out of the superhero movies, I was stunned at how Punisher Warzone got Garth Ennis's comic to the screen. Lexi Alexander, very underrated woman director. Pam Grier is fabulous in Escape from LA. Yeah. Pam Grier has aged very well. Pam Grier is now racing horses in New Mexico or something, and occasionally doing little bits and pieces. But she seems like somebody who's got her head on straight and has embraced her reputation and her history in cinema. The last thing I've got to watch between Christmas and New Year, if I get around to it, that's the same with all of these. I picked this one up and I actually paid for it from Imprint. JB Hi-Fi had 30% off, so I got Laurence Olivier Shakespeare trilogy, Henry V, Hamlet, Richard III. Not my favorite version of Henry V. I like Branagh's version better. But I've got these three on Blu-ray that Imprint put out, but they didn't send me. So we've got Hank V, Hamlet, and Dickie 3. So I'm going to watch those. I'm in the mood for a bit of Shakespearean stuff as well as Kinji Fukasaku movies. So I'm going to have all this stuff on the coffee table and then just wade my way through it in between Christmas and New Year. Renexa Chambara says, gosh, I remember those films from watching them in English literature class in school. Yeah, it's a nice little box set. Quite happy with it. I don't know if I'm going to dive into the extras or not this time around. And Laurence Olivier's Shakespearean takes are very mannered in the old school way with the received pronunciation and the other stuff. So, but I'm going to watch all that stuff. I wanted to make it a little bit diverse in what I was watching too. Didn't want to just watch one kind of movie over the holiday season. Renexa Chambara says is recommending Throne of Blood. Of course, Kurosawa. Fantastic. Dick says Richard the 111th has Albert stepdad calls it. Yeah. Yeah. Richard the Third. I'm gonna groove on this. I don't know if I've seen the Olivier Richard the Third or not. It may be the one I haven't seen. But I've already watched Romeo and Juliet this year, so I've had a little bit of Shakespeare happening. Deb says, Brenda's Henry V is great, but my favourite is the Henrietta Sullivan's Hollow Crown. Simon Russell Beale's Falstaff is an absolute joy. I love Simon Russell Beale. He's fantastic in everything. I also want to watch Chimes at Midnight again sometime in 2026, so I'm going to drag that out. Orson Welles, Jean Moreau, nothing not to love in that. But yeah, there's just so much good stuff to watch, and there's good stuff upcoming. On Christmas Day, they're releasing the last episode of the first season of Pluribus. And if you haven't dug Pluribus, you really should. Fantastic acting, terrific cinematography, great script, good science fiction, and really interesting stuff. Ramsaz is looking forward to watching Avatar Fire and Ash on IMAX before the year is out. It's an audio-visual feat, but not so much the story and acting. Gross $345 million over the weekend. Yeah, I actually thought about going to see it this week, but I probably will see it at some stage. Not sure when, but I will see it. But I find the Avatar movies singularly unaffecting. Yes, they're pretty. Yes, they look like the cut scenes from a really good computer game. But name 3 characters from that movie, any of the Avatar movies. Not the actors, the character names. You might get 2, but very few people get 3. For movies that make so very much money, they've got very, very small cultural impact. And I find that weird and fascinating. My theory is that James Gunn's sexual fantasies brought to life. And I can see an argument for that, but I will see it at some stage. But I'm really more inclined to go and see the Anaconda reboot with Paul Rudd and Jack Black than I am another Avatar movie. So it was 3 hours long, says Forso. Olivia's interpretations of Shakespeare, says Deb, are excellent but very of their time. Yeah. Renata Chambara says, I can recommend Down Cemetery Road. I've watched all of it. Zoe Bohm's a great character for Emma Thompson. And yeah, I will recommend it too. Down Cemetery Road, something you should check out. Deb says, not bothering to see any Avatar movie for the same reasons. Patrick says, Avatar is all sizzle and no steak. You mean James Cameron rather than James Gunn. Did I say James Gunn? I meant James Cameron. I apologize to James Gunn. But yeah, James Cameron, when he was originally designing the creature designs for the first Avatar movie, he really wanted Neytiri to be sexier. So he told the people doing it to make her look more fuckable, which I think says it all. Dick says, both me and Carol thought Blue Smurf 1, Blue Smurf 2, and Blue Smurf 3 at the same time. Ramsar said, I'll be watching Pluribus over 3 successive nights with 3 episodes. It's 9 episode concluding on Friday. Really looking forward to it. It's great. The twists and turns work. Rhea Seehorn is fantastic as Carol. Just masterful acting. The whole ensemble works. And their casting process is really great too, because a couple of people have talked about it, including Vince Gilligan, the guy who wrote it. And for them, the important part was the chemistry and the relationships between the actors. And yes, for the most part, it doesn't have a lot of actors in it for reasons that are to do with the plot. It doesn't have a lot of kind of main actors in it. But they did, for the woman playing Zosha, they really want to make sure she had rapport with Rhea Seehorn. All of the different actors just had to vibe off each other a lot. And the cinematography too is fantastic. The blocking is great. The framing of individual shots is lovable and magnificent as well. There are beautiful ways they use to isolate the Carol character within the frame of a lot of shots when it's important that they do so. And it's done in very subtle ways. And sometimes she's like in the corner of a frame with a much larger central frame as well. Beautiful direction, beautiful cinematography. I love it. Renee Chambara said, love Alex Cox's intro to the Terminator on Moviedrome. It was brilliant, put great perspective on James Cameron's shonky mats on the screen and the Twilight Zone homage plot ripoff. Yeah, well, Harlan Ellison did successfully sue James Cameron for the Terminator because he stole from Ellison's story Soldier that was in the Outer Limits. Dealey says, I've lived perfectly well without seeing the Avatar films. I feel no loss. I'm amazed at how emotionally unaffecting they are. Yeah, they're a roller coaster ride, and yeah, they're merch. But I don't like the fact that the characters are kind of generic, sexy native girl, wounded soldier, feral military commander. They've all got 3-word descriptions for each character. Ramzar says, I watched a doubleheader on Tuesday, Avatar, Fire and Ash, and Marty Supreme. Just got the tickets. I'm looking forward to Marty Supreme. That looks like a quirky little film. Yeah, Evil Pixie Avatar is referred to on South Park as Dances with Smurfs. And from a plot point of view, very much is that. Marissa Chambara says, sorry, Outer Limits always gets Twilight Zone and Outer Limits mixed up. Avatar does well in China because it's reinterpreted by viewers as a social critique. Yeah, I mean, everybody brings their own cultural approach to different movies. And I think that's a good thing. I like the idea of movies hitting differently in different markets. But yeah, I mean, I had the same thing with Tron Legacy. I just did that video about Tron Ares, saying nobody really wanted another Tron movie. And Tron movies are a really narrow concept. They're like this big, a narrow concept. People are getting uploaded into a computer world and playing games and fighting and things. And then in the last one, they brought it out into the real world to no real interesting effect. It's such a very specific concept and very narrow concept that expanding it into a franchise means you're diluting rather than adding. I mean, they're like the Predator franchise, as I said in the last video. People want to know more about the Yautja because they're an interesting alien who have hunting as a basic part of their culture. And they, as Predator Badlands shows, their planet is really competitive as far as the whole ecology is concerned. They evolved on a world where smaller animals are preyed on by larger animals, and even larger animals prey on them. So it's a very dynamic life cycle on their planet, and that's why they are as they are. Dodge says, another Outer Limits episode influenced Cameron's Terminator was the man who was never born, about the person going back in time to kill women whose son causes a future global extinction. Yeah, there's a lot of, I think Outer Limits is underrated. Yep, there was a lot of good stuff in Twilight Zone, and there's a lot of moral grounding in what Twilight Zone did. But Outer Limits is the darker streets of science fiction than Twilight Zone in some ways. Vanessa Chambara says, Tron Ares remind me a lot of Pixels, reinterpreted as an art house film. It's not even that good. For Sale says, do Australian movie theatres front load the feature film with half a dozen movie trailers? Yep, they do. And sometimes it's okay. And sometimes I've already seen the trailer 3 times on YouTube. But that's when I usually do social media posts about the movies I'm watching. And that's useful, of course, for the channel. but it's also to let my friends know what I'm watching. And also because I'm part of the Australian Film Critics Association. My social media for that stuff helps the organisation. Doug says, I recently discovered it happened on Fifth Avenue. What a delightful surprise. I can't remember that one. Zootopia 2 has grossed 127 billion, 1.27 billion, sorry. But only 22% is from US. China accounts for 40% of the gross, says Ramsar. Zootopia 2, I thought the first one was okay, but I do know some people who are furries. And this is Avengers Endgame for furries, that they made a Zootopia 2. The furries I know are really, really passionate about Zootopia 2. Renaissance Chambara says, Jared Leto always seems to play himself in every film. I think it's a little more complex than that. My take is that Jared Leto makes really bad acting choices in 90% of the movies he makes. The way he chooses to interpret the characters are always wrong for the source material. His Morbius was not good. His Joker was a joke because he chose to make him kind of like Pete Davidson. His choices are not well chosen, if you know what I mean. Deb says, I try to avoid trailers where possible. I love going in blind. Yeah, it's good for some things. If it's a tentpole movie, I mean, I saw the Supergirl trailer last week. Looking forward to that movie. I also read Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, the comic upon which it's based. And that is very, very cinematic. And most of it's not on Earth. So I am looking forward to that movie because I trust James Gunn with the property. The source material, being the original graphic novel, is solid. And it looks right. Doug says it happened on Fifth Avenue. It was a movie from the 40s, Christmas movie with Don DeFore, which is on YouTube. Thanks, Doug. Haven't clocked that one, but then nobody can see everything, I suppose. Deb says, don't know if I want to see Spielberg Disclosure Day. I've seen the trailer. I thought, this is just Spielberg doing the same stuff again. I mean, taking crop circles seriously, where we know it was a couple of yokels with some planks and some ropes who created the idea of crop circles. And then suddenly Spielberg says, no, it's aliens. Fuck that guy. Spielberg was always in these movies that are really, really popular, not Schindler's List and all of those more serious films, but in his audience bait movies. Very middle of the road white American. He did The Color Purple, I know, but you know what I mean. In the big genre stuff. I mean, his War of the Worlds was singularly unaffecting. Great special effects. And it did have those 9/11 resonances. But what was the last really, really, really good Spielberg movie? Not looking forward to Disclosure Day. He's just doing his usual alien stuff again, trying to recapture the magic of the 1970s and 80s. Having said that, I really like Sugarland Express. Are we getting an ad? Because the chat always slows down when we get ads. Renaissance Chambara says, Disclosure Day feels very late 1990s film. Spielberg did well in details like the toy and E.T. Last film he did that I like was Close Encounters. Never liked Close Encounters. D. Lee says, I've seen some trailers that pretty much show the whole damn film. Yeah, there's more nuance to them these days. There used to be, they gave enormous plot points and were given away by trailers. But I like some oblique trailers. I like the trailers that seduce you into wanting to see the film rather than sticking their hand down your pants. Remzo, who is our stats guy? It says all the movies are grossed around $1 billion movies for kids in 2025. Nizar 2, 98% from China. Zootopia 2, Lilo and Stitch, a Minecraft movie. Yeah, I actually enjoyed the Minecraft movie. I saw it with my nephew because he wanted to see it, and we get together to watch movies. It was dumb fun. It was well done. It was crazy. It was nutty. It was a roller coaster. Exactly what young people want. Dick says Raiders of the Lost Ark, maybe the last good watchable Spielberg film. Deb says it's a great book about crop circles, The Perfect Golden Circle by Ben Myers, a British writer. Very tongue-in-cheek. And Renee Chambara says Nizar 2 is wonderful from a craft point of view. Cool. Yeah, crop circles are a joke. In fact, they were done as a joke, so there is that. And gullible people thought they were aliens. I mean, people started doing them in Queensland, and Queenslanders, particularly in the rural areas, are perhaps not as worldly and educated as other people. And they just bought the shit, even though it was just a couple of guys with a 6-pack of Forex and a couple of planks and some ropes who started making crop circles in cane plantations in Queensland. And people bought it. The news media bought it. It was just an embarrassment. Ramsey says Spielberg's Minority Report is outstanding in science. I agree. It's good, and even Tom Cruise is good in it. And the world building was right. The plot works well. It works well as a murder mystery and as a crime film. It does all of that stuff right. And the action sequences work. So I'll agree with you there, Ramsar. Dodge Morgan says another overlooked Christmas movie is Shop Around the Corner, 1940 romantic comedy with James Stewart and Margaret Sullivan. Yeah, that was a sweet film too. Do you see they're doing a biopic about Jimmy Stewart during and after World War II? It's called Jibby. Don't know whether we needed it, but somebody is making it. It looks fairly low budget, but it doesn't look like it's going to be a bad film. May well turn out to be, but it seems to be structurally okay. Mystery Man says, I'm impressed with the emotional content of the Marvel universe. Well done writing and acting. Few FX movies can pull it off. Godzilla -1 has it. Avatar and American Godzilla's not so much. Yeah. I mean, it's got to come down to the people, the human characters, or at least the characters in movies. And they built up the MCU really well. And grounding it with somebody who's got the acting chops of Robert Downey Jr. and making him central to that, it helped all the other actors lift their acting game. And I like that. You get a very superb actor at center of things, and everybody else is going to rise a little bit and put in the extra effort. Renaissance Chambara says, crop circles made for great rave flyers. One of my first projects when I started working in advertising was a crop circle for an energy drink brand. Freak rainstorm ruined the whole shoot. The weather's always going to get you. D. says, anyone else regard Takashi Miike's 13 Assassins as Christmas viewing? You can. Why the hell not? I like a bit of Takashi Miike. I mean, I'll even watch Ichi the Killer at Christmas. Nancy Chambara says, I love Shin Godzilla very much. Good commentary on government inertia. Yeah, it was about the response to the tsunami. It was a overtly political movie. And all of that stuff with the bureaucracies fighting about it was a direct parallel to the bureaucratic inactivity in Japan after the 2011 tsunamis. It is very much a deeply political kaiju movie. And I love the idea of Godzilla's rampaging in Tokyo. So you fill a whole bunch of shikanzas with explosives and just ram them at him. I love that idea. Wait till you see the stuff Imprint sent me. There is, I'll give you a clue. One of the collector's edition box sets I got for one of the movies is that big and that wide. It's enormous. It's the biggest thing they've ever sent me. It's the biggest thing any movie company's ever sent me. And I'm going to be doing an unboxing for the next video. It's going to be epic. D. Lee says, Mike's Yakuza Apocalypse is totally bonkers. See it if you can. I've got it, but I haven't watched it yet. What else have we got? I've got nothing down here, so I'm just going to shoot this. I'm going to let this one run about 15 minutes over the hour. So I'm going to keep it going till 9:15 my time because of the delays getting this live stream happening. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to the end of series 1 of Pluribus because I know there's a series 2. Vince Gilligan contracted for 2 series at least with Apple Plus. So yeah, I want to see what happens with Carol and Zosha and Manusos. Really looking forward to that. Raymond, I say, what's Kill Bill, the whole bloody affair in the theatre? It was 4 hours, 41 minutes, which included a 15-minute intermission. Fantastic. Long expanded into anime and the fight in the bar. Yeah, I've actually seen a little bit of the clips of that. And I'm looking forward to seeing that, but it hasn't come out here yet. But I probably will go and see it when it does. When it hits the App Store, maybe. It sounds like it's probably likely to hit the App Store in the new year. So I will go and see that. Captain Laser said, Robert Downey Jr.'s film Less Than Zero was the first serious film of his when I took notice of him as an actor. Mystery Man said, my son-in-law is blown away by Robert Downey Jr.'s backstory. Recovery is possible but rare. Yeah, he was a punchline in jokes on late night television for a long time, till 2008. Suddenly he's Tony Stark and everyone starts taking him seriously. So here's a trivia question for you, and somebody will answer it. In which movie did Robert Downey Jr. play Albert Einstein? Yeah, I can just hear the keyboards clicking already. D. says, I like RDJ and Chaplin. Yeah, he was good as Chaplin. The other good Chaplin there was in movies was Malcolm McDowell in Sunset, where James Garner played Wyatt Earp. And there was a kind of sort of Charlie Chaplin character called Alfie Alperin, played by Malcolm McDowell as a murderous mongrel. Should rewatch Sunset. It's a good little film. And I know I've seen copies of it in op shops on DVD. So we'll pick up a copy of that and watch it. Bruce Willis plays Tom Mix in that film too. Everyone's gone quiet trying to figure out which movie Robert Downey Jr. played Albert Einstein in. I can tell. It's a movie I like, but it's only ever come out in Australia on VHS. Have another sip of drink. I drank my espresso before I started the live stream, and the live streams went west. So that was a bit of a hassle. Weird Science says, shot, draw, cut. No, he's not in Weird Science. For Sale says, I saw Putney Swope in the big screen back in '69. It was directed by Robert Downey Sr.'s very weird movie. Yeah, Putney Swope, I've got it on Blu-ray. Love Putney Swope. RDJ got a nomination for Chaplin, says Mystery Man. He did. Patrick says, was it Bill and Ted? Nope. Deb knows what it is, but doesn't remember the name of the movie. Dealey says, you've seen the silent film Shooting Stars as a thinly veiled version of Chaplin as a bad guy. And that's interesting. Just be a few moments. Ramsar says, that's adequate, and so did Deb. Yep, that's adequate. Also, I mean, it's got a hell of a cast, that movie. Bruce Willis is in it. Jerry Stiller's in it. Ben Stiller's in it. Just a lot of people in there as well. Tony Randall is in that movie. For those of you who don't know what that's adequate is, there's the Wikipedia link. And it's fun. I like that's adequate. James Coco plays one of the main characters in that film. It's just such a piss take of the history of Hollywood. I love it. I love those little satirical movies that came out on VHS here in Australia and never got any traction. Doug says Sunset's great. A fluke to copy on eBay, even though Willis has top billing. It's definitely James Garner's movie. Garner gives it a lot of gravitas. Deb says it's on YouTube. I watched it a few months ago. That's adequate. It's on YouTube. I should probably watch it again on there. I'll add that to the comfort viewing. But I really love That's Adequate. It's really silly. Ramsar said the second half of Takeshi Miike's 13 Assassins is outstanding action. Great ending too. Yeah, I mean, Miike is just such a diverse director too. He'll do kids' films one day and then go and do the goriest Chambara movie and another day. It's just mad how broad-reaching that guy's career is. Now I'm going to have to watch That's Adequate this afternoon. Adam's there. Hi, Terry. Still recovering from the body of evidence watch party 3 weeks ago. Yeah, watching. Yeah, that movie is pretty messed up. Let's see. What could you do as a cure for that? Watch a couple of Laura Gemser and Manuel movies. That might get it out of your head. That Black Emmanuel box set, I really want it, but I can't afford it. It's just, it's got all of the stuff I liked when I was renting VHS tapes. So, any questions? Anybody want to ask questions? I'm always happy to take them. Might watch that next. Battle Royale. Gotta love anything that's got Beat Takeshi in it. Takeshi Kitano is the man when it comes to Japanese asshole bastards. Zemi Adams says Greece's Palace is another one. Okay, cool. No, I'm going to just, while the chat's slow. Yep, That's Adequate. It's definitely on the tube of views. Movies I'm least looking forward to in 2026. I won't watch them if I do. I mean, yeah, if a movie's not going to be my jam and if it looks like it's going to be a piece of shit, I'm not going to watch it unless somebody wants to throw money at me to do it. Dodge says, does Einstein meet Marilyn Monroe in it? No, that's Insignificance, Nicholas Roeg film. D. says, if you like cynical films about films and shooting stars, is a very early one. It also has a scene reminiscent of the Alec Baldwin incident. Cool. Doug says, Sunset and DVD is available on Film Classics website, small Australian site, where you can buy hard-to-find classics very cheaply. Cool. Ramsar said, watched 305 movies so far. 22% were premieres, 31% were non-English, 69% watched for the first time. That's a good ratio. Let's see how many I've watched, because I wanted to do one a day for 2025. And I've done 376. So I've beat the one a day target. But then I don't have much else to do. Adam says, was just in a castle for Christmas watch party. What is it about Christmas and terrible films? Everybody there are more bad Christmas movies than there are good ones. Same way there are more bad westerns and good ones and more bad other things. Mystery Man says, I was going to show Son-in-Law Chaplin in Heart and Soul. Good example of Robert Downey Jr. before his fall. Yeah, we got a copy of that for Sal's sister because she wanted a copy of Heart and Souls. We got one. Mystery Man says, what's my favorite MCU universe movie? That's a hard one. I kind of like Iron Man 3 because it's Tony Stark when he's vulnerable. And it's a pivot point for the character where he totally commits to his mission in life and his destiny. And it realistically portrays complex PTSD. And they strip off everything, including all the armor. And Shane Black's dialogue is sharp and sarcastic. It's probably Iron Man 3, even though a lot of people don't love that. Carol says, found Santa Claus the movie online the other day. It wasn't good. Also thought Elf was overrated. Yeah, Elf was a little over the top. But I like silly Will Ferrell sometimes. Though my favorite Will Ferrell movie is Step Brothers. Him and John C. Reilly just being man babies. I just love it. The whole ensemble's good in there. Catherine Hahn's in it. Adam Scott. Fantastic ensemble. Carol says, not a Will Ferrell fan. Not everyone is. But I think when him and John C. Reilly really work together, I'm not including Sherlock Holmes in that. Hilariously funny. But as far as 2026 is concerned, I'm going to see what comes up. I think 2025 has been a fantastic year for cinema. Really interesting stuff coming up. And I think there's a reason. It's not just happening due to the randomness of the universe. During the lockdowns and the pandemic, script writers had a lot of time to work on their scripts and to refine them and without interference. And so there are a lot of good movies coming out now where the sharp edges necessary to make a film cut through have been honed for a very long time. And we're reaping the benefit of that time without distraction that a lot of writers had. Renaissance Chambara says, I managed to watch Michael Mann's Thief with James Caan. Good film. I actually got a coffee cup that Imprint sent me with that on it. Quite like the other guys. I prefer The Nice Guys. The Nice Guys is just such a fun film as well. Carol says, saw Last Christmas fairly recently. Actually good, made me cry. That one was... Let's agree to disagree, Carol. Mystery Man says, my favourite Will Ferrell film is Stranger Than Fiction. Cool. Deb says, I want to see Resurrection when it's released here next year, plus Nouvelle Vague and Blue Moon when they arrive in January. Already seen them. They're fantastic. Richard Linklater's Blue Moon and Nouvelle Vague are so in my sweet spot of cinema. Ramsay said, my favourite MCU movie is James Gunn's Guardians of the Galaxy. Yeah, that worked. Renee Chambara said, there's a great film with Chaplin and Buster Keaton in together. Haven't seen it in the years. I forget the name. Is it Limelight? It might be Limelight. That was the first movie I did on the radio with ABC Darwin. Ivor wanted to do Limelight. We saw it and we both enjoyed it. Dodge Morgan's rewatched the original Out of Towners with Jack Lemmon better than the Steve Martin remake. Yes, it is. Captain Lazy said, does Blades count as MCU? It's cheesy fun, but I like it. It predates MCU. But I picked up the Blade trilogy really cheaply on DVD and rewatched them. Third one shipped because Wesley Snipes was having issues. But yeah, the first Blade really works. Rams, I said, best cops and robbers movie, Michael Mann's Heat. Does High and Low count as a cops and robbers movie? Because I think High and Low is the best crime film ever made. Carol says, I thought Last Christmas tackled an interesting point about organ donation. Advent over here was a kid asking, is mum still my mum if she has someone else's heart? That's the kind of thing a kid would ask only in a movie. Kids would be just happy that their mother was getting better and healthy in real life. But Last Christmas go, okay, let's take a George Michael song literally. It seems a little bit cynical. D. says, Pepe Le Moco is great cops and Robinson. Yeah, Pepe Le Moco is fantastic. Jean Gabon in crime films is never bad. Mystery Man said, Guardians of the Galaxy is next for me. Going to see it tonight. Cool. It's got a lot of needle drops in it as well. They're very good. What did I see recently with really good needle drops in it? Trying to think. Nouveau Vague's got some really interesting music in it. Yeah, I really like diegetic music in movies too, where they like put a record player on a record rather than just having the music appear mysteriously in the environment. I like diegetic music really well. Renee Chambara says, your favorite John Carpenter film? They Live. I got it on 4K. They Live is peak John Carpenter. I like it more than The Thing. The Thing's a remake done well, but They Live as something original and of itself, and it's and it works. Rusty Barra says, mine is Assault on Precinct 13, which is a good modern remake of Rio Bravo, and all credit to him for that. D. Lee likes Dark Star. Dark Star's fun. Saw it on the big screen at the Astor once. But yeah, Ramsey said, High and Low is more kidnapping movie and one of Kurosawa's best. Yeah, there's a YouTube video about how God tier the blocking in High and Low is. And I rewatched it after I saw that YouTube video. Just watching the way the camera follows different characters around as the power dynamic and the moral dynamic of a scene shifts, and how the actors move around to emphasize and frame that person. It's just incredible. The other thing I love about Kurosawa films is how he uses the weather. There's a thing called The Quiet Jewel, a movie about a doctor in a small town. And the weather is used incredibly to underline and emphasize various scenes. Dodge Morgan said, Carpenter's The Thing is my favorite. That's legit. Favorite Stan Lee cameo? More Rats. Rosika Barra says, High and Low is brilliant. Toshiro Mifune is a fantastic lead and such a varied actor. People don't tend to think of him as a varied actor. But if you look at him in Rashomon and comparing to the Quiet Jewel, and then compare it to High and Low, great range as an actor. I think it's our favourite New Z film, says Deb. I think Jeff and I bonded over Carpenter films. Well, that's cool. It's better than Radley Metzger films, I suppose. But yeah, if you haven't watched High and Low, rush out and watch it. It's just incredible. Ramsay said, John Carpenter's best film was The Thing. 1982 was the best year for science fiction movies. Evil Pictures says, have you seen Man-Thing 2005? First part of a failed MCU franchise. Yeah, it's bad. It wasn't MCU, but it was filmed here in Australia because Jack Thompson's in it. And it's pretty bad. Um, Deb says Stanley cameo, Mr. Stank. Yeah. Dodge Morgan says, I also like the Fog, though, was based on a book by James Herbert, as it came out at the same time as the movie, but nothing like it. Yeah, one of the things Ryan Writer fans told me is whether your story is being adapted for a short movie or for a feature film, take the money, help out where you can, but let go. You can't be precious about your book or your story. Let it be something else. Once they pay you the money, and you're willing to help out if they ask for it and if they need it. After that, you've got to let go. Adam says, what's my filmic black hole? I've not seen enough Fellini. There are a number of them. I want to see more Agnes Varda films. I had a chat with my friend Lucy about that on Saturday, about how really wonderful Cleo from 5 to 7 is. And Julian, my friend Julian as well. How good Cleo from 5 to 7 is. And how I've got a copy of The Gleaners, but I haven't seen it yet. So I want to see more Agnes Varda films. I want to see more Kurosawa films. I want to see more 1960s Japanese crime dramas because there's a lot of them out there that are only now starting to be accessible. Ramsey said, how's Highest to Lowest, which is a remake of High and Low? I haven't seen it. I'd be willing to see it. But I did talk with somebody on Saturday who'd seen it, and they said to me that they didn't like it. Jose Fryan says, Branded to Kill, Japanese movie from 1967. Yeah, Seijun Suzuki. I watched one of his films last week, Take Aim at the Police Van. Suzuki's crime dramas are fantastically good. And I always like Japanese crime films with nightclub scenes. I love Japanese crime film nightclub scenes. They just hit for me, and they make me wish I was sitting there drinking Suntory highballs. And Suntory highballs are the best drink you can have in Japan. They have them in tall cans. They're 9% alcohol, Japanese whiskey and soda water. And if you go into a bar, they will give it to you in a big mug with almost a slurry of ice in it. They're fantastically good. But Branded to Kill is great with like a Japanese gunman who's got a sexual fetish for the smell of boiled rice. Adam says Yamazaki is the best. Yamazaki is good. But Branded to Kill I had on VHS back in the day. Not sure if I still have a copy of it. Hey Lee, how you doing? Merry Christmas to you, mate. Yeah, lots of great. Japanese crime dramas are probably the rabbit hole I'm going down at the moment. Deb says, I wrote a lot of fancy words about the MCU while I was at uni. My final project was a comparative analysis of MCU villains. So I'm very conflicted about an absolute favorite. Yeah, and it's also very subjective too. But even though the villains aren't particularly strong in Iron Man 3, apart from Trevor Slattery, of course, I still like the conflict in the main character and how it's a pivot that leads on to broader issues in further movies. Ramsar says, best year for science fiction movies is 82, Mad Max 2, Star Trek The Wrath of Khan, Blade Runner, The Thing, E.T. Let's see. Never liked E.T. I actually saw it at the opening of E.T. in Dubbo in the middle of New South Wales. I was living out in the country with my friend Balrog because he needed someone to live with him. And there was an enormous line to see E.T. at this little country cinema in the middle of New South Wales, like geographic middle of New South Wales. There's a big queue and we're in the queue. And we got to use a good line because one of the people from the cinema came out and said, does anybody have Revelations? And I said, yeah, but I'm going to see it anyway. So, and we were lads in those days, and we had big coats on, and I had half a roast chicken and sat down the front row watching ET, eating a whole half a roast chicken. Deb says, Iron Man 3 is a fabulous pivot point. It is indeed. Dog Dad says, earlier we went offline, didn't know it was my end of yours. Happy holidays. Glad you're back. Yeah, I tried to hook up my Osmo Pocket as the webcam to avoid issues with this one. And it just wouldn't connect because it thought I was using something called Snap Camera. And I tried to troubleshoot, did what I could, eventually bit the bullet and went back to the wayward webcam, which I've managed to stabilize. Rams, I said, actually, I'm not a fan of ET as well. I don't get the fandom. I think it's like Star Wars fandom. If you're 6 years old and you watch a movie, you're going to love it forever. You bond with it like a baby bird. That's why I love, even though I was older at the time, Valley of Gwangi. Really loved it. I saw This Island Earth with my uncles when I was very small, and I love that movie for that reason. You bond with movies like a baby bird if you were a kid when you saw them. D-Lee says, that looks like a tricorder from Star Trek. It's not, I'll share. It's a camera I use for a lot of things, the Osmo Pocket, which is a fantastic camera. It's got a great gimbal on it. Packs a lot of punch. Really a useful piece of kit. Dodge Morgan says, don't like ET. They CGI'd radios over the guns to make it less threatening. Yeah, they did. Because Lucas and Spielberg and that mob finger paint over their work. Deb says, I think ET works if you were a kid when it came out. I got all nostalgic for Chitty Chitty Bang Bang a few weeks ago. I love Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. Chitty Chitty Bang Bang is fun. Lionel Jeffries and Bobby Helpman. Benny Hill's in it. How can you not love it? And by the way, happy 100th birthday to Penis Van Lesbian. Adam says, watched ET when I was 16 and wept like a baby. Thank God I was on my own. Last Indiana Jones film made me weep for different reasons. Yeah. Never got ET. I never just bought into the concept. Ramsar said, I love the first two Star Wars movies, and that's it. After the first and third Raiders movies. Rest Chambara says, just realized my stream is way slow. Sorry for any out of sync comments. That's okay. We'll work with them. We understand the technology is not perfect. I understand more than most. Dog Dad says, sorry about the mass shootings in your country experienced recently. How are your fellow countrymen handling it? Some better than others. The right wing of politics here in Australia has politicised it. But the Labor Party, who are in government, have been really, really careful not to. Anthony Albanese, the Prime Minister, has handled it in an incredibly statesmanlike way. There was a service last night, a week after it all happened, and Albo went to the service. The Prime Minister went to the service, and right-wing Jewish people booed the Prime Minister at a memorial service where he had shown up, as he had previously. And in a week, he has mapped out more extreme gun laws to protect people from getting access to guns if they're not people of goodwill and don't have a need to have guns. So in a week, he has moved the country toward protecting people, and particularly protecting Jewish people, from anti-Semitic attacks. Dodge Morgan says, Indiana Jones 1, 2, 3, that's it for me. Mystery Man says, Star Wars and Star Trek would benefit from a fart gun. It would have laid flat Khan. Probably. The fart gun's a powerful weapon. And you can't knock that. And if anybody wants to do a super chat, I'll use it again. But, I mean, I kind of like Star Trek. I really like Strange New Worlds. I think that works well because it's modernized it politically in some ways, which I kind of appreciate. And I think the ensemble works well there. And once we got past Shatton and Nimoy and McCoy, and DeForest Kelly, it's interesting what they've done with it. I like what they're doing. They've got the Star Trek Academy series coming out, and I'm going to try that out and see if I like it. Just got to adjust here. But I think looking at it, apart from Andor, which I hear is very good, but I'm not going to watch it because I've got no interest in Star Wars. I think Star Trek's had a pretty good hit rate, with a number of exceptions over what is it now? 60 years? It's done pretty well over that time. And I also like the fact that Star Wars is, underneath all of the fluff, a utopian look at the future. It says we can get our shit together. Maybe not perfectly, maybe not everywhere, but there's a trend towards utopia that I really appreciate. It's like why I like the science fiction novels of Kim Stanley Robinson. He is probably the best utopian writer we've got at the moment. If you haven't seen Ministry for the Future, haven't read Ministry for the Future, it's a fantastic book. D. says, Star Wars Stormtrooper trying to shoot a Star Trek red shirt. Who would win? We're talking at a convention? I think red shirts were not incompetent. They just came up against things they couldn't overcome. So there's nothing to say a red shirt can't shoot straight. Adam says, I like Star Wars, but can anyone tell me why the baddies are baddies? Because they're fascists. Basically, the Empire is Nazis. And even though there's been a pivot in the political landscape of America recently, they're still Nazis. Dog Dad says, Trek Discovery and the Section 31 offerings were unwatchable. Yeah, Star Trek Disco didn't do as well as I thought it should have. I think there was a possibility for it. But maybe the showrunner was having an off year. It didn't really land, and Section 31 was shit. Deb says to Dog Dads, thanks for thinking of us. I've got a lot of friends in Sydney. So glad they didn't get caught in this. Terry said, the politicization by the right is sickening. Absolutely, Deb. Adam says, what do the baddies of Star Wars want? They want what all fascists want, the status quo. They don't want things to change. They don't want things to evolve. They don't want things to improve. They are sitting on the handlebars while everybody else pedals, and they never want that to change. That's pretty much what the Empire wants in Star Wars. They want everyone to let them do what they want to do. They don't want any dissent. They don't want any change. They don't want any improvement. They want to keep the status quo. The Empire rules the galaxy, which is a stupid idea because galaxies are a lot bigger than George Lucas thinks they are. But they don't want any change. Pretty much wants, and they want to expand if they can, kind of like the way basically the German Nazis in 1944. They got an ugly, charismatic leader, and they're willing to bulldoze everything to rebuild in their own image. Kind of like Fox News. But yeah, it's been an incredible week in Australia as far as that stuff's concerned. And I've been arguing, and I didn't want to get too political, but I'll drift there now. I've been arguing with some very hardcore right-wing Zionist Jewish people in America who are buying a lot of disinformation about the levels of anti-Semitism in Australia, which aren't to be dismissed because they are being very much targeted at places where Jewish people live in Sydney and Melbourne. And generational trauma is real in Jewish communities. The Holocaust still is something they live with, and it's still there for them. So the fact that there have to be armed guards at Jewish schools and graffiti attacks on synagogues and things like that, we get that. But there is an incredibly well-funded and motivated pro-Israel lobby in Australia, which for the last 2 years has been trying to justify the unjustifiable. And that muddies the waters and gives everybody cognitive dissonance. I know some very good Jewish people who have been profoundly in shock about Gaza because they're good people. And yes, even though they support Israel's right to exist, it can't be at any cost. That's what I'm getting from them. So it's an incredibly complex situation. But I think Australia is, at its heart, egalitarian, and they want everybody to have a fair go. And we don't like dickheads. We especially don't like dickheads who kill people on our beaches. As I said, got digital purchase of The Woman in Black recently. Haven't watched it since the early 1990s as an ITV production. Haven't seen that, but I probably should. Tell you what, The Bride Wore Black is great. The Truffaut film based on the Colonel Woolridge novel. That one I recommend. Dog Dad says, on a lighter note, have I watched The Great Flood Netflix movie on Korean import? Found it kind of a mess without a clear idea of what's to be. I want to see it because I like a good disaster movie or even a bad disaster movie. But what I'm hearing is pretty much in line with what you said. Racist Cambara says, the only Star Wars bit I like was The Mandalorian, but I think it's because I grew up with spaghetti westerns. The Empire feels fascistic, and the Jedi feel like imperialists. I have very little sympathy. Rams watched The Great Flood on Netflix last night. Quite a muddle. I probably will check it out because I do want to watch more South Korean movies because K-horror is incredible. I mean, the way they're open to dealing with their fears in fictive form is really interesting. But yeah, Rams up. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just having a brain moment. Yeah, I want to watch more South Korean stuff. I've actually got a couple of box sets that I should dip into for that and just chill back and watch those if the cats let me, because they're constantly wanting to be let in and out of the house. We haven't got a cat door yet, and so there's always traffic duty to handle in this place. Dodge Morgan says, best Trek movie that isn't Galaxy Quest. Yeah, got to be Star Trek 2. Wrath of Khan. That's great. It's almost Shakespearean and operatic and over the top. Not perfect, but I like it. I think it's the one that said there can be a movie franchise here. Rasa Shambara says, I'm disappointed as an Irishman at the way my compatriots look at Jews, but also disagree with the current Israeli administration. Not the pragmatists of Moshe Dayan, etc., but dogmatic. The current Israeli government is dangerous and damaging. I don't want to go too far into it because it can trigger some people. And Angela, who may still be in chat, being an Indigenous Jewish woman, I don't want to traumatize too many people. Dog Dad says, how's Mag doing and has Luna made an appearance? Luna hasn't made an appearance, but Sal's doing fine. She's having a sleep in. Evil Pixie says, Star Trek 6 is up there with Star Trek 2 for me. Is that the Undiscovered Country? Because I do like the Undiscovered Country. That's very political, even though people will sometimes not admit it. Why does my phone keep farting at me? So for that matter, where is my phone? I'll worry about it later. Yeah, the world is media, social media is being weaponized. I mean, there's no two ways about it. Keeping things in broad terms because I don't want to drill down to specifics again. Social media is being weaponized by bad actors, and I don't like the fact that we've got to be careful and say, is that CGI? Is that thing we see about that person CGI? Is that AI? Is it the truth? Is it what really happened, or is what is really happening? The fact that we've got to do that because there are so many bad actors out there pisses me off. I'd rather put my attention on other things that are better and deal with other issues. But it's like they say at the end of the last Boy Scout, Satan Claus is out there, Jimmy. There are people who will try to mess with our brains for their own good, not for the greater good, but for their specific good. And they're all over the place. And the thing that pisses me off most, leaving it in broad terms still, is how a tragedy, which has profoundly affected the country I live in, my home, has been politicized right from the moment it happened by right-wing people in Australia who are technically in the opposition to the government. I think that's a bullying thing. It's a cruel thing. It doesn't allow the Jewish community or larger the Australian community to understand, to analyze, and to grieve. Racist Chambara says social media facilitates people talking past each other rather than listening, discussing, and debating in good faith. It can do, but one of the things I want to do with this channel particularly is, if in a live stream this stuff comes up, which inevitably it's going to, I want it to be a safe space for people to cry if they need to, or talk if they need to, have things clarified if they need to, if I'm able to do that. All that stuff I'm fine for. But I'm keenly aware, and possibly because of a lot of things in my upbringing that I'm not going to talk about, that people will try to manipulate the way you think for their own benefit. Ramsey says Star Trek 4, The Voyage Home was great fun going to San Francisco to save the world. Yeah, it was entertaining. It was good fun. It was a circuit breaker from the heaviness of Spock dying and resurrecting. Dog's dad says, how do Australians view what's going on here in the US? We're as appalled as anybody. I mean, I think most of us can differentiate between the people doing what they're doing over there and the majority of Americans. I've got so many American friends. There's a lot of stuff that worries us about America. I mean, we have a reasonable pharmaceutical scheme, which enables me to get pharmaceuticals I need to stay alive. And Trump is talking about forcing American pharmaceutical companies to charge Australia a lot more money for the pharmaceuticals that many, many people need. That's stochastic warfare. That's the Trump regime fighting a war against Australia by saying, do what we want and we don't care if it kills your people. We're aware of that differentiation there. We're aware of the fact that bad actors are propping up an insane man with dementia and letting him have his head with stupid things, meanwhile controlling the message he's putting out for their own fascist reasons. We're aware of that. We're aware of the fact that you guys have got to get your shit into gear and fix it next election. and punish them. There's going to have to be a function kind of like the denazification that happened in Germany. That's got to happen in America in the future. Demargarization of America is going to be so important to you guys moving on. And it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be pleasant. And people are going to have to be named and shamed and jailed and prosecuted for what they're doing to people who don't deserve it. That's what I reckon. Rome, as I said, best science fiction movie released in 2025. Avatar and Frankenstein excluded. Predator Badlands. Yeah, I can see an argument for that. I mean, best fantasy film released this year was Sinners. I mean, Ryan Coogler's boldness in Sinners is it has been a fantastic year for cinema. Sinners, Blue Moon, Nouvelle Vague, Frankenstein. Just a whole bunch of really, really good movies have come out. One battle after another. Just so much good stuff. And so much of it talks to the reality we're living in at the moment. Mystery Man says, on one hand, social media has given a venue for people who oppose right-wing nuts, people that can't get on mainstream media. Our mainstream media is a little more bold with that. But to be honest with you, mainstream linear news channels aren't going to be here forever. They're not successful. They online and streaming services and things like YouTube, for instance, have an incredible diversity of opinion and will challenge wrongful authority using facts and by throwing their own words back at them. And I'm great with that. I love that. Ramsar says, too much politics. Goodbye. Bye. Sinners is such a great film, says Raisa Chambara. Also, a Hong Kong animated film, Another World. My two favorite films of 2025. I haven't seen Another World. I've heard a little bit about it, but I haven't seen it. But Sinners is just fantastic. Any other questions? I'm willing to go anywhere with this because I've got about another 20 minutes here, 20 minutes or so. Is there anything in cinemas in the near future that's worth spending your hard-earned bucks on? Probably a lot. If you haven't seen Blue Moon and Nouvelle Vague, you should spend them on that. Let's see. I want to see Supergirl. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. And at the moment, we're getting a lot of things that are kind of the feel-good Christmassy movies and post-Christmas movies. I do want to see Anaconda. That looks like it's going to be fun as well. Forsyth said, Netflix stopped offering free trial offers in 2020. The stingy bastards. Yeah, but apparently Shudder has got a week's free at the moment, so you can watch horror movies instead. Red Vax versus Blunny, says Renee Jabbar. Yeah, no, you leave redbacks alone, they're harmless. I mean, we used to get them in the toilet seats when I was living out in the country, and you just check the toilet seat first. If there's a redback there, you brush it away with a toilet brush and let it go, live somewhere else. Snakes aren't that bad. Snakes aren't bad. Spiders aren't bad. You just got to let them be what they are. No, redback boots, says Renee Chumba. I'm not that big a boot guy. I'm more kind of runners. I like a good sketcher. But blunt stones are good for an industrial purpose if you need something with a steel toe cap. But I'm not that big on them either way. Dogstat says, having no interest in Cameron's latest Avatar slog. No, I don't think it's necessary. I mean, yes, he's going to make it. It's going to make all the money in the world, but it's going to have no cultural impact. Dodge Morgan says, can I wait for Robert Eggers' take on A Christmas Carol next Christmas? Yeah, Robert Eggers. I did like Nosferatu this year. So we'll be interested to see what he does with A Christmas Carol, because it is public domain. Anybody can have a whack at that ball. Dealey says, some good films I've seen at festivals that could really do with wider releases, but won't get them. Yeah, there are smaller films that are really interesting. There's something about a dead diamond. It's a US by remake kind of film. I want to see that too. Also, 100 said, I met Jim Mooney, the original Supergirl artist, at the flea market back in the 70s. He was a lovely guy. Good artist too. Fantastic cartoon artist. Like really good penmanship kind of thing. Deb says, redbacks for me over blunnies. I live in Tasmania where blunts are sold. Many of our friends lost jobs. Renee Chambara said, another vampire film was great, Near Dark. Yeah, Catherine Bigelow. You can't go wrong with Catherine Bigelow, even if A House of Dynamite didn't quite hit. I don't know that it was entirely her fault. But yeah, Near Dark's fun. It's vampire westerns always seem to hit. They're never entirely crap. Sorry, we kind of Ramsar went away because I think Ramsar's politics are quite to the right, but I don't like the idea of someone being sent away because of things we say on the channel. That's got me worried a bit. Captain Laser says, I like Near Dark, it twisted in the right places. Yeah, it's twisted in the right places. Good cast too. Lance Henriksen and Bill Paxton, all those really on point. And it's willing to go in yucky places. And it's willing to do all this stuff. It's like Primitive War, the dinosaurs versus Vietnam era soldiers movie. It came out pretty much the same time as Jurassic World film that came out. And it did the thing that the Jurassic World movies are never going to do. It showed that there's a lot of blood and guts when you get ripped apart by a dinosaur. And it honestly went there. On a tenth of the budget, it did really well. Dealey says, I just watched Planet of the Vampires yesterday. Definitely an influence on Alien. There's no way it couldn't be. Forsale 100 says, it's not an airport. You don't have to announce your departure. No, but that's okay. I mean, Ramsar supports the channel in a lot of ways. He's there in the comments. He financially adds to the channel. If we disagree about things and if things get political, I don't mind him saying he's going for that reason. He is a great supporter of what we do here. Mystery Man says, how do you think they're going to bring back James Bond? No Time to Die, wrap things up nicely. It's going to have to be a complete reboot. I'm not keen on Bezos having a say in how that's done. Denis Villeneuve, I think, is doing the James Bond film. I got trust in him. If it is Denis Villeneuve. I just want to wait and see. I think you don't smash the golden egg the goose lays. You got to make it really, really good in a new way. And that's the challenge. And also with the fluid political situation, getting back to politics for a second, that we have in the world, making a James Bond movie is hard because finding, separating the good guys and the bad guys is more complex than it has been in the past. Dodge Morgan says, best Dracula movie. Love the first Hammer Dracula. It's good. Actually, Cinemaniacs, the cinema collective here in Melbourne, is showing the Hammer original Dracula movie next year on the big screen at the Astor, and I'm going to go for that. Dog's dad says, is there any future for the WB Legacy Godzilla Kong franchise? I kind of like the Monarch TV series. That works for me as that. Alexis Chambara says, one final Christmas film recommendation, Rare Exports. Fair play to Ramsay. Everyone has their comfort level. I suspect we may disagree on things, but respect his love of film. Absolutely. He is an important part of the discussions we have here. And I don't want to shit on anybody for knowing when things aren't going a good way for them in chat, because this is very free flowing. And he respectfully dropped out. I've got no problem with that. It's a gentleman thing to do. But Doug says, have I seen the Ballad of Wallace Island yet? No, I haven't yet. Dilly says, Bezos has shown his newspaper that he can intervene, so he might do with Bond. Yeah, because everything's a toy when you're that rich. It doesn't matter what you do. No, there's no consequences in any real terms for you. If you lose $100 billion, you've still got the other 4 times that, 4, 10, 20, 30, 50 times that amount. You've got, that's, in a sense, me spending $100 on a Blu-ray is him spending $1 billion to fuck up a franchise. That's the level of equivalence there. And those people are dangerous. Ramsar said, appreciate not being labelled as left or right wing. Thanks, for sticking around, Ramsar. I think I want to be as inclusive with this channel as possible. I'll turn back the politics for the rest of the live stream, but I appreciate you letting us know. Mystery Man said, I'd like to see James Bond go back to the 60s Cold War reboot. I want to see go back to the 50s. The 50s was an even weirder era. I mean, there are weird things like in the original Casino Royale novel, the reason Le Chiffre has to get that money together at the casino is he invested the Communist Party's money in a string of brothels that were legal in France. And then suddenly France made brothels illegal. He lost all his money. So there's all of these social and political reasons why 1950s canonical James Bond villains are the way they are. And I find that really interesting. And maybe as a streaming series it might work, which is a radical idea for James Bond. But a 1950s set James Bond streaming series is not the worst idea in the world. Captain Laser says, War of the Worlds 2025 is considered the worst film of the year. An advertiser for Amazon in parts. Have I seen it? No, but Sal has, and she says it's shit. And Sal has a broader taste in movies that are, I consider shit. And she's told me they're shit, so I'm happy for that. Rex Chambara said, I'd love to see a Smiley Le Carre books being made in a film series. The quality of the Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy film adaptation. I think I want to see new things. I mean, I like the fact that we've got Slow Horses and Mick Herron has updated that particular milieu into the modern era, and I really love Gary Oldman in that. Got problems with him accepting a knighthood, but I love him as Jackson Lamb. Down Cemetery Road, another Mick Herron series, is rock solid as well. I think, and I've kind of developed this theory over the last year, is going along with nostalgia is a minefield. It can blow the legs out from under you, so you just stay in the same place. And I'm kind of aware that there is an attraction to nostalgia, an attraction to seeing things we loved. But this year I kind of developed a theory that, for me, I want to see new things that give me the same wow I got from watching Valley of Gwangi the first time at the Regal Cinema in Liverpool. I want that passion. And I got it from things like Sinners. I got it from Nouvelle Vague. I got it from Blue Moon. I got a grown-up version of that wow of childhood with new movies. And for me, that's the way I immunize myself against getting too much into the nostalgia thing. Deb says, speaking of spy stuff, I'm keen to see the second season of The Night Manager. I'm hearing a lot of good stuff about that. Mystery Man says, now I'd like to see Bond go back to the 50s reboot. It'd be a good timepiece. Absolutely. Doug says, for me, it all hinges on whether they cast a decent Bond or that they made the character as a misogynistic dinosaur, a man man out of time, but bring back some humor. Yeah, I think humor's got to be done lightly because the original Bond is darker than people remember it. The novels are quite dark. And there is a psychological and emotional price James Bond pays, even though he is somebody fully capable of killing. There is very much an emotional and psychological price he pays for doing what he does for king and country, or queen and country. And we've got to be aware of that. And this is something that Ian Fleming knew from working for the SOE during the war. He knew the price people pay for being field operatives. And I think too much humor and you lose that. Captain Laser says, Sal is 1,000% correct. I couldn't make it to the end of War of the Worlds. Yes, you took one for the team, absolutely, Captain Laser. But yeah, with Bond, you got to be respectful of the original intent. Yeah, Renee Shabara, Bond is dark and sociopathic at times and complex. And he's kind of an idealized version of Ian Fleming, who, like James Bond in the original novels, did have a lot of affairs with married women in the post-war period before he got married himself and had a child and kind of settled down and then strained against domesticity. Fleming had a history of finding willing married ladies, and the engagements couldn't get too tight because they had a lot to lose. Ultimately, he married somebody he had an affair with. So there is that as well. But yeah, Bond is a complex character. I think Daniel Craig's iteration of Bond is the most psychologically true to the original material. And I really like that. I think that worked well. And guess what? It's time to go already. We really must knock that naughty clock that says it's time to go. It goes so fast. Our time has passed, and we must end our show. So thank you to everybody for bearing up with these tech issues and for being a part of this. Just have a great Christmas season. Going to be here for the New Year's Eve live stream at 11 p.m. our time until 1 a.m. That's going to be fun. I've got Prosecco. Anything can happen. So in the meantime, everyone look after yourselves. Have a great holiday season. Watch some really good films and hug the people you love.